Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price. I am here with my co-host, Arwynne O'Neill, and today we're going to be talking about Jupiter in Taurus. First, we're going to have a look at what Jupiter means. We'll have a little look about what Taurus has got to say, and then we'll combine the two. So, Arwynne, it's lovely that you're here with us again.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, Alison.
That's great. And this time we're going to be looking at and exploring a little bit about Jupiter, which is a super interesting planet.
Absolutely.
And there's quite a lot, I think, to be said about Jupiter. What would you say on the matter?
Well, it's the largest of the planets, aside from the Sun, obviously, which we do consider a planet in astrology. Jupiter was at one point considered to actually be a failed sun. In astronomy, it was a gas giant that just didn't quite get big enough to gain its own system around it. But it does have some moons, and it's a giant, and it does have a great deal of import in astrology.
Yeah, it is I think the biggest planet in the solar system by a long chalk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the king of the planets.
The king of the planets.
Yeah.
That's one great way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
So Jupiter astrologically is ruling Sagittarius, I believe?
And Pisces, yeah.
And Pisces, okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting because those are very, very different signs, but they do have a couple of things in common. Obviously, they are both very sort of big personalities. They are associated with spirituality in very different ways, however, and also ambition and sort of the law and big moral sort of questions. So a lot of interesting characteristics there that we consider Jupiterian.
Yes, yeah. It is interesting because let's face it, Sagittarius and Pisces are really not that similar, and yet they do have some things that are similar as well.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of the wonderful things about Jupiter here are summarized very well in a book by Stephen Arroyo, and we call him Saint Stephen between the two of us because he's just fundamental to my learning of astrology anyway, and anyone who is learning astrology would definitely do well to look up Stephen Arroyo, and his first 4 books essentially were the basis of my astrological learning, outside of my family. So this is his book from 1996 called Exploring Jupiter, and the Astrological Key to Progress, Prosperity, and Potential, which are obviously 3 brilliant keywords for the planet Jupiter.
Sounds wonderful. And I'll tell you, my first astrology teacher used to point us towards Stephen Arroyo's books way back then, and he used to call him Saint Stephen because he deserved it. So it's a brilliant astrologer.
Absolutely. So in this book, it's mostly about personal chart interpretation because that is his main focus. He, I believe, is still a consulting astrologer, and most of his stuff is very much about psychology and about the personality, as opposed to broader society trends and things like that. But this is a really interesting guideline for interpreting Jupiter in your chart. So he says a strong Jupiter is when someone has a lot of placements in either Sagittarius or Pisces. Of course, those are both ruled by Jupiter. And the first person that comes to mind when I think of a strong Jupiterian personality is Tony Robbins. And if you've ever seen him speak, he's this tall, exuberant, just passionate, excitable person whose life's mission is making other people more successful and, making their lives bigger and richer and more prosperous. And what could be more Jupiterian than that? And looking at Tony Robbins' chart, he is a Pisces with Mercury in Pisces, Jupiter in Sagittarius. And he is just, I think, one of the embodiments of Jupiter. And another example that is a bit more of an historical reference is Winston Churchill, whose chart Stephen Arroyo goes into in great detail in this book, Exploring Jupiter. So a couple of main characteristics of Jupiter are it manifests as hopeful, buoyant, and upbeat personality, often a humorous personality. It can give a sense that the person has a mission in life, that they're, whether it's a religious or spiritual mission or just a humanitarian mission, this person typically has just a large personality that seems very infectious in a way. And you see this a lot in, politicians or public speakers or educators, humanitarians, these kinds of things. It lends a sense, as Stephen Arroyo says, of moral conviction, whether that's religious or otherwise, but a highly moral or activist or humanitarian kind of personality. And a person who also is taking risks, sort of a larger than life kind of personality. So this can obviously have like positive and negative aspects.
So that's a great way of looking at it. And just for our listeners, could you just give us the birth data there you have for Tony Robbins?
For sure. So Tony Robbins was born in Los Angeles, California on February 29th, 1960 at 8:10 p.m.
Amazing. So that's the data you've got from Arroyo's book. And that makes him a leap year baby as well.
Oh, well,
February
interesting.
29th?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Super great. Super interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So this year in 2023, Jupiter's going to be entering Taurus.
It is on May 16th, actually.
Right.
And it will stay there for approximately a year. It will be there until May 25th, 2024. So it's always in a sign for approximately a year, which is a really convenient thing that Jupiter does for us astrologers, because it makes it very easy to do our interpretations. And
it's so true,
plan our
because
lives.
if every 12 years Jupiter's in Taurus, then 12 years ago it entered Taurus, and so on.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that it's often aligned with the Chinese horoscopes because they start every 12 years.
Yeah.
And this particular ingress of Jupiter in Taurus is going to straddle the Chinese horoscopes between the year of the rabbit and the year of the dragon, which will come in February 2024.
Right.
So that's always interesting. So
yeah.
I actually have two daughters born 12 years apart, and they both have Jupiter in the rooster. So
Wow.
I know. So they're both, it's just kind of interesting.
That's really interesting.
How these cycles connect. So,
Yeah.
So Jupiter's taking 12 years to go around, and it's now going to be entering Taurus. Well, this month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Very soon. So let's talk a little bit about what Taurus means.
Yes.
What is the sign of Taurus? It's the second sign in the zodiac. It comes after Aries and before Gemini. It is an earth sign.
Yes.
It is a fixed sign. Earth signs are obviously Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, and those are known for their stability, their earthiness, their practicality. Exactly. Taurus is sort of the earthiest of the earth signs. It's also represented by the bull. I always think of, I have Mars in Taurus, and I think of that.
Do you?
I do. I think of it as Ferdinand the bull. He was the bull who didn't want to fight. He just wanted to lay in the field and smell the flowers. Yeah, that's.
Is that how you think your Mars is in Taurus?
Unfortunately, sometimes. Yeah, but I can be motivated to fight if needed, if need be. But yeah, so Taurus. It's a grounded, sensual sign. It is known for being patient, but also very stubborn. It's probably the most stubborn
of the stubborn.
The stubbornest of the signs. Maybe followed closely by Capricorn, but much more like dig in its heels stubborn.
Absolutely.
Capricorn is more like kind of rushing forward and taking over. Stubborn, just for digging in its heels as a bull might. Taurus is definitely that one. Realistic, reliable. They appreciate quality and security. They are very financially minded. Financial security is important to them. Their families are important to them. Food is important to them.
The produce, yes.
Yeah.
From the land.
An interesting thing that I found when I was researching Taurus a while back is so many people who we know for their voices are famous Taurians. A lot of singers, but also a lot of actors who are just known for their voices. Orson Welles comes to mind immediately as a Taurus, and anyone who's a generation like mine or Generation X or before, when he was famous, all through the 20th century, can just probably call his voice to mind, because he did so many commercials and voiceovers and just it rules the throat.
Yes,
and in
the voice box. Yeah,
and the voice box,
exactly.
And it's fascinating that actually you can just look at a list of Taurians and say, oh my God, wow, those voices.
Those are the voices, yes.
Yeah.
I often think of Taurus as the sign that doesn't want to overcome inertia. They are quite happy just staying put with the status quo. And it's the connection to the land, that they are grounded. These are very much barefoot on the ground type people. And an interesting fact about Taurus is that the Sun Taurans are the people who owned most of the land on Earth. They actually go out and buy property, buy
Yeah.
farms, buy condos, buy hobby farms, and they own more land than the other signs.
Yeah, and a lot of the famous financial minds, Karl Marx, there are a few that I remember whose names escape me at the moment, but
Yes.
you can Google it. So many famous financial thinkers are Taurians, are Taurus sun signs.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now consider, as Jupiter enters Taurus, what sort of things could we anticipate as these two energies come together?
Well, referring back to St. Stephen's book here.
We love St. Stephen.
We do. Exploring Jupiter is his book. He interprets this Jupiter through all the signs, and Jupiter in the Earth signs specifically means a feeling of unity with the Earth, a sense of oneness with nature. Any Earth sign Jupiter is naturally skeptical about impractical dreams. He says the least idealistic of all the Jupiter placements, but they specialize in getting things done. So they're very practical. They're very focused on achievable ideals and goals for themselves and, for their families, for whatever they're involved with. A steady reservoir of physical vitality is usually present, he says, and their inner faith comes when they tune into practicality, dependability, and the experiences of the senses. So that is a really interesting interpretation. He continues to say that Jupiter in Taurus seeks to grow and improve themselves through productivity, steadiness, and reliability. They attempt to improve life through money, possessions, and luxuries, which can lead to being overly materialistic, which is definitely a Taurus thing, but amplified by Jupiter because Jupiter enlarges anything it touches. This is something that's the nature of the planet Jupiter. It can tend to tip over into excess any sign that it's in. So if you have Jupiter in Virgo, you can be overly critical, overly pedantic, overly detail-oriented to a fault. And in Taurus, that can be, overly concerned with financial matters, with stability, maybe too conservative, and all of those things that go along with that.
So, when we take these two combinations, we've got this expansion and growth of Jupiter, and we've got this, I want to say, the financial bent of Taurus. Originally, I was thinking, well, does this mean that, the money's going to get better, it's going to flow and this and that? But I think it might be inflation.
Yeah.
Where
costs of everything go up.
Yeah.
The cost of food has already gone up.
The temptation to perhaps buy beyond your means may come during this period where shopping till we're dropping is a thing because it's Jupiter.
Yeah.
But perhaps with some more thought about these things, people can control it. But it will be interesting to see during that time whether the actual interest rates go up or that sort of thing. And
also if people want to invest in things that are more sort of solid and traditional, as opposed to sort of these more ethereal, no pun intended, sort of stocks and maybe going back to like land, jewelry, gold, these things that are much more traditional and of sort of tangible value.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if we were going to consider perhaps a few trends that may unfold at this time.
Yeah. So Taurus is definitely involved with the economy, and Jupiter in Taurus might affect financial institutions, the markets, investments, the things that people invest in. We can probably expect growth, obviously, in these areas, and certain sectors of the economy that are more, involved with Taurian themes might see more growth, as we were saying.
Right.
Taurus is associated with stability and security, and with the status quo, in a sense. So Jupiter in Taurus may impact politics in the sense that people are moving, backwards in a sense to more traditional sort of values. We might see conservatism have a sort of regain a foothold and, a focus on preserving existing systems as opposed to more progressive focus. Personal growth is also something that's very Taurian. Personal appearance, your health, the physical body. Yes. These are all very Taurian themes. So focusing on how personal development and your preservation of yourself and your body and your mind and all of these Taurian things could be emphasized and enhanced while Jupiter is in Taurus. Also, if you have any placements that are large in Taurus, like you Taurus rising or whatever, obviously Jupiter would be on your ascendant, and that is really interesting. Anytime Jupiter touches one of your personal planets, it can expand it and cause it to become a focal point for that year. So,
right. And you say you've actually got Mars in Taurus, so that will be coming along for you.
For sure, yeah. Jupiter conjunct Mars. That could be really interesting. I mean, I've already definitely picked up a lot of sort of athletic and active pursuits over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So
getting all sporty.
more of that.
Yes, yes.
Yes, more activity. Jupiter is also associated with the environment and specifically with agriculture. So we definitely saw some scarcity in the last few years because of COVID, because of the war in Ukraine, these sort of bread baskets of the world,
Right.
Where the supply chains weren't able to sort of get things moved around the way we were very much accustomed to. And I definitely see Jupiter in Taurus as an antidote to that in many ways, like a more abundance, more
abundance, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just briefly touch on two of the major aspects that Jupiter is going to make as it's going through the sign of Taurus. And the first one is it's going to actually square Pluto in Aquarius on May the 18th, so that's like 2 days in.
Yeah. And Pluto obviously is quite new in Aquarius, so
Yes.
they'll obviously be meeting at a very early point in both of their transits.
That's right. And they're both fixed now, so it's a different dynamic, but it's a very short-lived aspect, I think.
Yeah.
Unless you've actually got planets at those degrees. And then the second major aspect that's going to occur is Jupiter will actually conjoin with Uranus. Mm-hmm. Now, this happens every 13 years, but it's actually going to happen next year on April 21st, 2024. We'll have a longer chat about that more towards the time, but that is one of the major aspects coming through.
Yeah.
I want to mention this one more particularly because whilst Uranus is in Taurus, it is supporting this rise of the Bitcoin and the cyber currencies through Taurus. It's overthrowing the money markets, and Jupiter may at that point create even more hype or inflation or hype, as it were, around these situations. So that's just kind of an interesting couple of points there on the aspects.
Absolutely. And Uranus being, the planet of disruption and innovation and lightning bolts, that definitely could indicate some sort of a financial disruption.
Yeah.
Like we need another.
We'll definitely have a chat about that more towards the beginning of next year.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. So whilst Jupiter is actually going through Taurus, now it's going to retrograde. Of course, the outer planets retrograde every year. So it's going to retrograde September the 4th, 2023. Now that'll be at 15 degrees Taurus, and that is its station retrograde. And this will affect anyone who's actually got a birthday between the 4th to the 9th of May. You will have this Jupiter stationing on your sun. So it's going to be a powerful growth time for you, an expansion and ability to broadcast your message from your heart. Mm-hmm. And then the station direct will be on December the 31st, 2023 at 5 degrees Taurus. And this will affect anyone with birthdays between the 24th to the 28th of April in any year, where again Jupiter is going to be stationing on your sun, bringing growth to you, expansion, opportunities, luck, all the good things. They're coming together. Jupiter and your sun is coming together.
Amazing.
So these are great times.
Right on New Year's Eve. Yeah. Amazing.
These are great things for these people with these birthdays.
Yeah.
And generally, with any transit, you want to look at where is Jupiter passing through your natal chart. And therefore, the question is where is Taurus in your natal chart? And this is where this effect is going to happen. So, Arwynne, where does Taurus lie for you?
7th house.
7th house.
Yeah. So not only will it be conjuncting my Mars, but it will be moving through my 7th house.
Oh, how exciting.
Right? Yeah, I'm not afraid of that one at all. That's woohoo.
For the man in your life, yes. And for myself, it will be, as it enters Taurus, it's going to be drawing part of my 10th house, then it will enter my 11th house halfway through towards the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So, those are the areas that are bringing growth and expansion. And lo and behold, here we are doing a podcast. Right. I rest my case.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to consider where Jupiter is for you, where's it passing through, where is it bringing you opportunity, growth, luck, and potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Areas to focus on.
Yeah, it's a really, I think it's an upbeat planet. I do like Jupiter. We always want to go with the positive of it.
Yeah, it's very easy to find the positive with Jupiter.
Yes.
Because it is all about expansion and optimism and excitement and maybe overextending, but...
Yeah, overeating maybe, depending where it is. Yeah, overindulging. But why not? We're held in a lot by some of the other planets, so Jupiter certainly gives you a chance to, I don't know, kick your heels up and do something different. So, yeah, we can report back on that later when we have a look at this next time.
For sure.
Well, Arwynne, this has been absolutely great having you in here discussing Jupiter in Taurus. It's always exciting when one of the bigger planets change signs, and I'm so happy that you were able to join us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, Alison. This has been super fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.